Put the needle on the record.
Welcome to Wage Cucking with JMO.
All right, guys. Welcome to another episode of Wage Cucking with JMO. We have Blake and Andreas here, and we're going to cover a few hot topics in the crypto news cycle this week. How you guys doing?
Excellent. I'm
good.
I'm ready to go through this.
Awesome. So I think the two main news stories this week were the additional FUD on the current Binance regulatory situation, and then the whole extension of the Multicoin. I guess it's a new hack, but Multicoin had issues maybe a little over a month ago when it was rumored that the founders were arrested by the Chinese government, and there wasn't much clarity that ensued after that. And then a month later, suddenly their bridge gets hacked, and here we are today. So I guess we'll start with those topics. So which one do you guys want to cover first?
I think we should start with the oldest, which would be the Binance FUD, because it's been going on for years. So we have some links on it, but the main thing I noticed on Twitter was basically some people departing Binance and other people saying they're not departing Binance, and then some of those leaving saying they were leaving on good terms, which is always very hard to believe in corporate speak. Especially if you're working like compliance or regulations, very hard to believe that you're not running for your life. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Was this just another day at the office or what?
I feel like there's more to it, just because when the initial Binance FUD came out, when they were going after Binance and CZ, the main complaint they had against the CTFC had against CZ was basically he was funneling user funds to his own corporation, and then the corporation was also essentially counter trading or trading the Binance markets. And then it was rumored, I had a few contacts within Binance that told me that if this became an issue, basically they had a plan in place to remove CZ from his position and promote Gary Wang to
the trading
CEO.
company.
Exactly.
And we went through this in the previous episode, I believe, about the news. Yeah. And I think I think you were comparing it to basically how OTC on FTX was done on Alameda.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so I guess he had a separate corporation that handled the trading market making side of things that also handled OTC. It's honestly very similar, or it feels like it's very similar to the relationship that Alameda had with FTX. If you ever did FTX OTC, you didn't go through FTX. You generally went directly through Alameda, and the transactions were to and from Alameda balances. So the situation felt eerily similar. So I guess the news came out this week that three of the top execs in Binance were stepping down. I think it was their general counsel, their chief strategy officer, and their chief compliance officer. Which I don't know. It's a little bit shocking, to say the least. Especially when the news came out. I guess it was a little over a month ago, that the CTFC was going after CZ, and CZ was possibly stepping down, and Gary Wang was going to replace him. So to me, this is all, I guess, speculation on my part, but it feels like the Jordan Belfort Wolf of Wall Street moment, where he's ousted out of his company, and then he comes back and says, "I'm not fucking leaving." I feel like this might have been CZ's moment, and then all the compliance execs are like, "Oh shit!" We might have to get out of here before he takes us down with him. But so I found it interesting that CZ tweeted that this was just FUD, and they have his reasoning didn't make any sense, though. He said that they had 8,000 employees, and this is standard turnover. You have turnover in in any company you run, which is true. But like you have turnover in like all positions, like all 8,000 positions. It's like an outlier that like 3 of the most important execs, especially on the compliance side of things, all end their tenure at Binance on basically the exact same day. And then if you look at their Twitter accounts, like some of the excuses, the one guy, Stephen Christie, said, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but he said like his wife wants him to like be at home and do more chores, so he couldn't continue working at Binance.
But that's normal corporate speak. That phrase is like when I was working at back in my fiat exchange days, I was hanging out with compliance a lot, and you hear their observations on industry and that kind of thing. And if somebody leaves compliance role at a company to spend more time with their family, that means they were fired, usually, or like something else like terribly wrong, because no corporate executive who's not 75 years old is going to spend more time with their family. Like they're trying not to spend time with their family. So, but you said the top executive roles. So of the ones, I mean, I would say for general counsel is usually pretty bad, because to me that sounds like you're saying I can no longer defend the actions.
Yeah, so it was
that I have my name on.
It was their general counsel, it was their chief compliance officer, and it was their chief strategy officer.
And I was going to comment on the chief strategy officer, because I think that's a very vague role and I wouldn't care so much. But if it was the CSO, the other one, the chief security officer, I would take my money the fuck out of there. Because if whoever's in charge of IT security quits an exchange, no. So I don't know what the strategy officer does, but and as well, the compliance officer, is that the one from Morgan Stanley and previously?
No, I'm pretty sure
a Fed position.
So the Feds they're quitting as well.
But it's like, honestly, who knows? Like maybe they hired this person to have a cozy job, and they get the job and they actually have to work. Like, it's very hard to know what they do.
Also, I find it interesting, like on the Binance.us side of things, they had like huge turnover as well. But basically, like the CEO has been replaced like I think 2 or 3 times in the past year, and the current CEO, like his Twitter account has been dormant for like almost 6 months at this point. Like he hasn't said anything. Like it's unclear if he's with the company. And I also feel like there's probably quite a few other people leaving. If the news is that these 3 people are leaving and they're like the 3 most important positions, it doesn't necessarily mean that like they're the only people leaving, right? It just means that the other people leaving aren't really newsworthy. Or I mean, if you have 8,000 employees, you're not going to list every single employee that leaves. But I feel like that this is like a bit bigger. I mean, this is all speculation again, but I feel like this is a bit bigger than they are letting on at the moment, and it's like very suspicious how they're handling the whole situation.
And in the spirit of trying to have some alpha on this show, then if this is the Belford moment, right, where he's completely delusional and is yelling like, I'm not fucking leaving, and anyone with an idea are like, dude, you're leaving one way or another, this is literally impossible, right? That's what happens in the movie. He's just prolonging and making much worse what is inevitable. So I mean, that is, in my opinion, is the worst case. I don't know CZ personally or how he runs that business, but he has built it up in a spectacular pace, and it is completely unparalleled. There is nothing has a volume compared to Binance. So how much of a Steve Jobs do you think it is? Do you think the company would just fall apart? With this Gary Wong you were talking about, like,
without CZ, I mean, I think the company will be fine. I mean, I feel like it's more dependent on what charges actually brought against them, and like how big of trouble they're actually in. Like, I guess it also, the question is if it's CZ acting alone, if he's at fault, or it's the company itself. But like, I just find the whole thing like very suspicious of how they're handling things. essentially treating the public and their customers and like the media as people with like sub 50 IQ. Like their response is basically a photo of CZ sticking up 4 fingers and saying like everything is
every
fine,
single time,
every
time.
Which like eventually you're gonna have to explain further than like sticking up your fingers and being like, this is fine. A few other interesting things I noted. He's been pretty active on Twitter recently. One of the things he was retweeting was that there was actually $2 billion of inflows into Binance. It was reported by, I believe, DeFi Llama, which is like a third party tracking site. But then, like, I looked online today, and someone went into the Binance reserves and realized that there actually weren't any inflows. It was just the DeFi Llama backend, like rearranging the Binance cold storage so that the number went up because they weren't tracking certain wallets. And CZ obviously knows this, right? I mean, like, if you're the CEO of Binance and there's an additional $2 billion, or if there's not an additional $2 billion in your cold wallets, you should have this information. At least you should have this information before like a third party tracking site. So I feel like he's trying to find like whatever good news there is promoted by like other parties to try to propagate it, regardless of if it's true or not.
But
so
maybe he doesn't know though. Sam didn't know. Remember, he had no idea where anything was.
He's like, I don't know where the money is.
That is very
it's
true.
entirely possible. It's entirely possible.
Sam is like, yeah, when it starts going to shit and like they're hacking the last funds out of FTX, Sam literally makes a spreadsheet. It's like, okay, so I have the Bitcoins on Dropbox in the text file, and then there's and you would think,
Yo,
like,
Carolyn, we need the password to the Amazon servers. I need to get the Bitcoin.
But so he didn't really know exactly. So why would this be different? Isn't it very normal that we always think of all these exchange CEOs and lending platform CEOs as these absolute geniuses, right up until the day where the whole fucking thing falls down? Like with DCG, Barry Shilbert has looked like an absolute genius for 10 years now. And you're looking at it now, and it just looks like, like bad decision making. Basically, every decision after seed funding, like blockchain.info.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Like I honestly don't know. It's difficult to gauge where CZ's at these days, what he's doing. I mean, if you look at the numbers, like there are outflows regardless of what CZ is retweeting. The volumes on Binance are down quite a bit. I think like all the crypto pairs are down like between like 5 and 6%. The USDT, USDC, the stablecoin pairs are down way more. They're like upwards of 15%.
What time range are you talking about now?
What
time range are you talking about?
Like ever since the announcement that the 3 execs were leaving, I think there's like 72 hours ago. Just looking at the daily volumes, they're down a decent amount.
Before that they were also, I guess, some outflows and a drop in volume because of these market makers leaving as well, or not leaving, but slowing down.
Yeah. I mean, it was rumored that that's the reason why. But yeah, I think Binance has lost a decent amount of market share in the past month or 2 months or so.
And where do you think that went? Do not say roll.
I'm not sure. Like,
I was gonna say Rollbit.
yeah, directly to Rollbit, I guess.
Yeah. Well, Demo, we're going to post your ref link on the bottom. I think it's fairly public that you've started shilling for Rollbit.
Yeah, that they offered me like $100,000 a week, and I have to accept that. Times are tough. I mean, no, but the other interesting thing was that they used to have their own stable coin, BUSD, and they were forced to wind it down. And they essentially converted their entire stable coin balance to TUSD, which there are some FUD that came out this week that Binance holds like I think like 80 or 90% of the supply of TUSD, and the supply is entirely controlled by Justin's son, like through shell corporation. So basically he has the private key, which he can mint and burn whatever amounts. So basically the entire Binance ecosystem stablecoin is held by one guy through one single externally owned private key, which like he controls this. I don't know if this is true or not, but it's definitely FUD if it
To
is
me,
true.
that would be bullish. Like Justin's son is a surat. He always makes it. So
Yeah,
I wish that was the case. But I thought they had some other I thought they were working on a yet another stable coin as well.
Another one.
No, okay, then
Oh,
then I must have those mixed up. So it is TUSD.
Yeah, but USD existed before Binance. They just I guess they needed just like a go-to stable coin to run their platform through like all their trading pairs and stuff like that.
Yeah. So what what do you think is what do you think would be the impact of this? Are we still kind of in the same collapse that was like the Luna and then FTX and then Genesis and then Gemini and then...
I don't think it's that bad. Like I think it's very unlikely that Binance is actually insolvent and they're hiding something. It's super likely that they violated a bunch of regulations. That's a fact. But that doesn't mean that they're just like stealing money out of the cold wall bounces and making a run for it. I think that's very unlikely.
I meant more. Do you think are we still in this downward spiral that we've been in for quite a while now? Do you think this is a result of everything that happened? Do you think, or is it just that that the regulators finally had the time to bring forward this case?
Yeah, I don't think it's like completely related to the I mean I guess it depends on what you're talking about with a downward spiral. If you're going back to like the FTX and like the Three Arrows Capital and stuff like that, I feel like that this situation is far different. Although the other thing that I found interesting was when the news came out, like in basically when the news came out, all crypto markets dropped. I want to say like 4 to 5%. Bitcoin, Ethereum, basically everything. The lower market cap coins dropped quite a bit, but the one coin that held up pretty well was BNB, which I found kind of ridiculous, and it sort of gave me like flashback vibes to Carolyn saying like, we'll buy all the FTT you have at $22, right? It feels like it possibly that they're making a stand on the BNB token using their reserves to hold that price up, because like if you think logically, the one token that should dump when all this FUD comes out is BNB, their native token. So that didn't make much sense to me.
And when you say they're buying up the BNB with reserves, are you talking about their reserves or my reserves?
That's a good question. I would like to know as well.
That's a really important distinction. I think both are stupid.
Yeah.
To be honest, if you look at, I mean, you hear in the TradFi boomer news, and you hear all the time, right? They're talking about like corporations buying their own shares back and so on, but you don't hear the news that they're spending every last cent they have to buy their own shares back, also including taking up loans, or just spending other people's money. So I think in crypto we're still like really insane stuff. Just the baseline is really retarded.
Yeah. And again, for the listeners, that this is all speculation. We don't really know exactly what we're doing. I'm just sort of guessing like the worst case scenarios, but even those seem like a little bit unlikely. That there's a decent chance that everything is fine and they're just handling the optics of the PR pretty poorly. But there is, I feel like that there is a decent non-0% chance that stuff is going to go really bad for them pretty soon.
And it is important because we're in a situation now in crypto where the price of an asset is whatever it says on Binance. Right?
Yeah.
If that is just how it is. You can say the name of other exchanges and OKX and DeFi, but the thing is, if it's listed on Binance, that is the price of this asset.
Yeah.
So it is incredibly important because it is really has, unfortunately, is like such a cornerstone of
and it's
of the
still,
industry.
even though the volumes are down, it's still by far the biggest exchange. So it going down would be extremely bad for the entire crypto ecosystem.
Yeah. And I guess then moving on, because the solution is obviously to move to DeFi, but not everything is beautiful and rosy on DeFi either.
Welcome to DeFi.
Welcome to DeFi, where every bridge is a rug base eventually.
It's actually not that far from the truth. I think like the five biggest hacks ever on chain, they're all bridges.
Yeah. That's why running an exchange, like, you're never worried you're going to be out of business anytime soon, because every time you think like, oh, DeFi is really good now, there's a bridge hack.
Yeah. But I guess we can talk about this a bit later, but I feel like that there needs to be some sort of long-term solution for bridging to avoid like I guess we'll talk about how the multi-chain bridge actually works, but it's not even it's not even a multi-sig wallet. It's just like an externally owned account. So like going back, I want to say this is like about a month and a half ago, there was a bunch of FUD coming out that the multi-chain team was arrested in China, which I think is true, because the multi-chain services went down, and that they made a tweet saying that their services weren't available because of force majeure, which I think is an eloquent way of saying we got arrested. Like if I understand the translation correctly.
I mean, it's that or a hurricane, yeah.
Yeah, like
a hurricane on the blockchain.
Hurricane hit the servers.
Yeah.
But they eventually there was actually no clarity as to if they got arrested or they didn't get arrested. Their services eventually turned on. A lot of the bridging services weren't turned on for quite some time, and we learned it was because they couldn't get into contact with the CEO who had the keys to the server. So like, kind of like red flag right there, that the CEO's like that has the only key to the server, and if he goes missing, like the entire bridge goes down. But anyways, it appears a lot of people, like, if I heard this a month ago and like all this shit went down, I would have no assets on the multi-chain bridge. I would not use any chain which like relies on the multi-chain bridge to peg the assets on that chain. But I guess people didn't learn their lesson. So like, I guess at this point, a few days ago, it turns out that I want to say like a third of the assets that were bridged to Fantom were hacked and moved to an external account, as they said, and that they couldn't figure out why. And I found this like especially suspicious because like a lot of these bridge hacks, if the hack happens and it's due to like poor coding or, you know, some issue, there'll be like a report on it. They'll figure out like what went wrong, but it took them like 24 hours to even like say anything. Like the Peck Shield was the one that was like, hey, you might want to look at this, like all your money is moving to another address, and they're like yeah, and like they made a tweet like, no, this is abnormal, and like radio silence for like hours after that. Like, yeah, it's pretty abnormal.
I believe they said something about the account being controlled by multi-party computation. So like not a multi-sig, but similar.
Is it actually? I thought it was just like for my understanding, it's not a multi-sig at all. It was just like the keys were just an EOA, an externally owned account.
Yeah. So I'm not too familiar with that exact thing, but it does say that that multi-chain is a multi-party computation bridging network. So I'm not entirely sure how they manage the keys, but you don't need multi-sig. there are other ways of doing things where you like split up keys and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it's very fair to assume, based on the previous communication of being unable to move any funds if the CO is unavailable, that there is a key
Yeah.
on a USB stick. And
on like an Amazon web server somewhere.
I was gonna say
one password accessing.
I was gonna say around his chain or up his ass, but yes.
The Chinese police are currently digging up his asshole to find the 150 million.
Yeah, pretty much. So so that is all suspicious. And what but as you were saying, I mean, I wasn't using the service. I've never LP'd, I've never LP'd on a bridge before. I don't know how they work, but I assume people put on funds and they get some kind of a return for the risk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I've never done that because it seems incredibly unsafe. So I haven't even looked at the rates, but I can imagine that the rates are also terrible because I use bridges all the time. It doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's a very low reward and historically extremely high risk.
In general, I'd say the majority of the reward comes from like their native token, which is like an emissions token that they give out. So like in this case, they probably give out like the multi token to people that provide LP on the bridges.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there isn't enough money in bridging to provide LP and get a decent return. And especially considering like the amount of counterparty risk there is, it just doesn't seem worth it.
I mean, so far the counterparty risk is like 80% over 2 years.
Yeah, it is quite high.
Crazy.
It is quite high.
Yeah. So
so I think the situation is especially bad because like a lot of questions, I guess, need to be answered. So like let's just talk about like the situation on Fantom. I think somewhere between, I want to say like 1/3 and like 50% of all assets, depending on like the value of the assets that are non-native Fantom tokens that are bridged, are on or used by Multichain. Like Multichain was like one of Andre's original projects, and he's like really big in the Fantom ecosystem. So the issue that like the Fantom chain is going to have is that there isn't clarity as to what assets are backed by multi-chain assets and what assets aren't. So like, for example, if you use any other bridge and you bridge USDC, it might be the same like USDC token on Fantom, but like it's actually backed because the other bridge isn't hacked. So then if you're like in a liquidity pool, or if you're like using the token and you try to bridge back, it's questionable whether like your token is still backed, or like if it's considered a part of the multi-back collateral, or it isn't. The other issue, and like a lot of the protocols in Fantom are just like shutting down, just like basically locking everything, is it like the way DeFi runs, you have like all these liquidity pools, you have like all these markets where you can like borrow, lend, you use something as collateral. Well, and now like imagine you're depositing assets that are bridged through multi as collateral, and now like no one knows it yet, but maybe it's worth 50% of its backing, maybe it's worth 0% of its backing, who knows. But then you have like people like using these at 100% of its collateral value and borrowing assets. So then now no one really knows like how much their collateral is worth if their platform is dead, because now they have they lend out real assets. Imagine if you're like borrowing Fantom and then you deposit like wrapped Ethereum, but like the wrapped Ethereum is cut in half or cut in 2/3, that then your Fantom is worth way more than your collateral, and the platform you're borrowing from has all this bad debt. So like basically without clarity as to how much their assets are actually backed, like if the bridge is going to turn back on, if there's going to be a haircut, if it's just going to be worth zero, like none of this stuff that I mean, like I think Fantom has somewhere around like $2 to $3 billion worth of assets on it. Like none of this like DeFi stuff could function without clarity. And basically Multichain hasn't said anything. That they said basically, yeah, we need to shut off these bridges, so don't use our bridges. They haven't even identified how they got hacked or exploited. Like, I mean, it's entirely possible. Like, I know we joke about it, but it's entirely possible that like the Chinese government like
Yeah.
cornered the guy with the private keys, like, give us the private keys, and he's like, yeah, sure, and that's the end of it, and they held on to the assets. But
so what are
sorry, go
what
ahead.
are these assets? So let's do this again. So I mean, there's a few different when we talk about bridged assets, right? So very, very classic one is like if you have Ether on Arbitrum, then it means that the Ether was moved to a smart contract on Ethereum, which is owned by the Arbitrum sidechain.
Yeah.
So it's stuck there, and in return, you get these Ether tokens on Arbitrum issued.
Yeah.
By the counterparty of that, or if you have, for example, USDC, that becomes a bit more complicated because USDC is not issued on every chain. More and more now, but so in some cases, like for Solana, it was originally FTX was just issuing USDC on Solana. This is not Circle, the company, doing this. It's FTX, and you were hoping that FTX had a wallet with all this USDC on it, on say Ethereum, which we know now that they actually later didn't. But so all these toxic assets you're talking about on Fantom. So how many of the assets on Fantom are real? Like USDT? No, there is no USDT. There's no USDC on Fantom.
I think there is US. So as far as I understand it, the way the bridge works is you can deposit whatever asset, and then you get like a wrap version of the asset. So like USDT doesn't, or USDC, USDT, whatever, they don't actually have to issue anything on Fantom, but the asset is in theory, the wrapped asset is in theory backed one to one, because the bridge has the underlying asset on Ethereum, which USDC or a Circle or Tether will redeem at $1.
But on Fantom, do they call it like multi-chain USDT, or are people just calling it USDT?
I think it's just called USDT and USDC.
Oh, shit. So it's a disaster.
So multi used to be any swap, and I think all the assets on the actual bridge, like if you provide liquidity on the bridge, they call it something different. So it's called like any USDT or any USDC and stuff like that.
Is this okay?
The other thing is like I saw this morning that Circle actually blacklisted the hacker's account, and they still have like $70 million worth of USDC. It honestly, like I'm speculating again, but it honestly feels like a Chinese government move, because like if it was like a black hat hacker, they would be all over converting. They would know to move out of USDT, USDC, move into like DAI stable coins that can't be censored, and also start funneling stuff through Tornado Cash. But instead, they did none of that. That they're just chilling with the funds right now.
But I'm very curious about this bridge. So why do you think it is that on Fantom, that people are saying that USDT from a bridge that is the bridge is separate from, in many ways, separate from Fantom, right? Then what do you think it is that everybody accepted this to be as good as if it was like issued by Circle itself?
I think it goes back to like the following Andre has, because like Andre built it basically, I wouldn't want to say everything, but quite a bit of the protocols that are used on Fantom. It's basically his chain, and like multi-chain is his bridge, or I mean, like it's not his anymore, but he was like one of the founding partners of it. So like if you're on Fantom, like the main reason you're on Fantom over Ethereum or like Polygon or something like that is if you sort of believe in Andre and what he's building. So then like I guess it's just consensus that everyone trusts those assets. I guess it's sort of how like other bridges work as well. I mean, like you still have, like even for Arbitrum, you still have non-native bridges, right? You can bridge over using Arbitrum, but like if you don't want to deal with like the return wait times, there are other bridges that like are acceptable in theory, but I don't really know how consensus works, meaning like if I spin up a bridge and say like you send me assets on Arbitrum and I'll send you whatever on Ethereum, or the other way around. I guess it works if it's like the same ERC20 token, but it's not like really there isn't like a communal, like tribunal type thing on like Arbitrum, where like if you have a bridge, you present it to Arbitrum and they approve it or they decline it. So I don't really know how consensus works.
No, and it's honestly, if I wanted to rug and just make a bunch of money, I think just like, make come up with a new identity or buy one, hang out on the Discords, then you make a bridge. Your bridge can be so simple that you just ask the user to send to this address and you can manually send it out on the other chain. Just use a spreadsheet. And then you just wait 6 months and you start rugging everyone. And it's so low effort.
What you're describing is literally how the Polygon bridge works. It's like like 3 Indian guys in a room somewhere in Mumbai, and they have like $5 billion worth of assets that they're like bridging or not bridging. And a lot of times, like the bridge doesn't work, and then you have to like call one up, and then he's on lunch break, so you don't get your assets until like 2 p.m. Mumbai time or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's I don't want to shit on Polygon too much. I like the people there, but yeah, it's literally how it works.
So on Fantom, what like you were dropping some numbers because they quoted, how many assets they have control of and not. Mm-hmm. So what did you spend any effort trying to game this? Like because you can, using this information, I guess you can like recalculate the value of stuff you find in on lending sites especially. Or you can start.
Yeah, it was.
You can start buying and selling tokens in a weird way as well.
I tried, and it was honestly difficult because there wasn't really clarity from the multi-chain side as to what the hell was going on. Mm-hmm. So, like a lot of like, for example, like MIM, our favorite stablecoin, Magic Internet Money, was trading upwards of $1.30 today on Fantom. Just because they run their own bridge, right? And their token isn't really backed by anything; it's just minted, but it's backed by collateral, so they're not really affected by the bridge assets. So people were, I mean, it's all speculation on these chains, and like we talk about Fantom, but there are quite a few smaller chains that are going to be zombie chains soon, because a majority of the assets that are bridged over are either synthetically created by multi-chain, or like a majority of the assets on their chain were on the multi-chain bridge.
So a lot of chains here in this list.
Yeah. But now I feel like it's just speculation, because like no one really knows how much like a USDT on Fantom is worth right now. Like I think it went down to like 70 cents or somewhere around there, but it's just people trading back and forth, like trying to get like a rough value. But it's not exactly clear that like if they're going to open up the bridge, if they're going to just haircut everyone, if the money is just gone, like there's no clarity. So it's just people trading back and forth, speculating on a chain that they might even be like passing money back and forth that doesn't even exist. They're making these trades, they have these assets, but who knows if their assets are backed like 50%, 20%, 0%. It's impossible to tell at this point.
So what yes, I guess you would just have to sit around. I mean, your first move that would make sense when all this starts would be just like to get real assets. If
I was thinking of just like longing Fantom, the token itself, because like the only real asset, like 100% guaranteed real on Fantom, is Fantom, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the only way like you can exit, like you can still deposit. The other thing I wanted to bring up is a lot of the assets on these chains are accepted on exchanges. So like if you, let's say you have like USDT on Fantom, you can deposit it to like quite a few exchanges, like using the Fantom chain, and they accept it like in their pool of USDT, meaning now I'm not so sure. I mean, like now I assume that they would have some risk controls, but I know in the past, like Wrap Ethereum, like the big stable coins, you could deposit from the Fantom chain directly to exchanges, and they'll credit you with essentially the equivalent of like an ERC20 Ethereum layer 1 USDT.
Yeah, I like this. I like this buying FTM. But I mean, I like this idea a lot, except for if if the news come out really bad, then FTM will go up.
No,
It's
I
like
feel
it
like the
will,
news comes out bad, FTM will go down because like if
but it will go up locally on Fantom,
yeah,
but it will go down everywhere else.
yeah, it will go up relative to the other worthless assets. If like if like the stable coins are trading at 30 cents on the dollar, it'll look like Fantom is mooning when in reality it's not.
So it becomes a bit difficult because then it's like you're short. Then it's like you're short FTM on on a SEX or whatever, but then it's like you want to be long FTM on Fantom, but if everything is going to zero on Fantom, there is no really there's no way to do that.
Yeah, I'm sitting this one out. Like I haven't made any trades on Fantom. I'm not gonna touch it until there's more clarity.
And then
I didn't
the
have
next
any
clarity
assets
will
on
be
Fantom to begin with.
And then the next time you will have clarity, it will basically be everyone learning at the same time what they have, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Unless there's a like blockchain detective situation.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Who knows? I guess we'll see soon. I mean, they can't really just say nothing and then I don't know. Maybe they can. Who knows?
So it's over for Geist.
Yeah, I think Geist actually paused their platform, but I feel like they're in quite a bit of trouble if some of the assets aren't backed 1-to-1 because they have pretty big positions out. So
I sold my Boo years ago, so I'm good.
Oh, you're a spooky swap.
Yeah, of course I'm a spooky.
Yeah, good times. That
was well.
Oh yeah, those were great. I was a little late to the party. No, actually, it went okay for me. A little late.
So one thing that really annoyed me with this whole situation was it was so obvious something was wrong a month ago when like the bridge shut down for days and they didn't have access to the server because like they were in jail. And then after stuff got restored, there were people that were basically like, everything is fine. This is just fine. People were like putting up these positions like he should be longing multi, which sort of worked out because like after the FUD, it went down like 50% and went back up like another 30-40%. There was this one dude who's like, I guess you guys don't follow poker that much, but that there was this Chinese guy named Wesley who no one in crypto has ever heard of, but like he's like this giant poker fish that plays in all these big poker games, and he's supposed to be like a Chinese poker god. But like, I mean, you and I know like a bunch of people within like the Chinese crypto community. They've literally never heard of this guy, but he made a post like I want to say 2 weeks ago, and he was like, multi-chain is fine. And his reasoning was he posted a screenshot of him DMing DJ, who's the CMO there. And DJ saying, yep, everything is fine here. And he's like, don't worry, guys. Everything is fine. The CMO says it's fine. And I immediately responded like, I don't think so, man. This is the whole situation's kind of ridiculous. And it was pretty obvious that like, this is something that had happened at that point. I mean, the rumor is that they all got busted by the Chinese government and they were in jail. But whether that's true or not, I'm not sure. But something definitely did happen because like even they admitted that they were having issues accessing the server. They couldn't get in contact with the CEO. The whole force majeure thing, but they never confirmed exactly what happened. But something was definitely wrong at that point. And at that point, like if you're like a logical crypto person and you've seen the like if you've been in crypto for a while, there's absolutely no reason to use this service ever again, right? Like you're bridging to a chain that's like borderline dead. I mean, it's mostly Fantom. They have access to like quite a few other chains, but I don't think it's like really heavily used in any of those chains. And then the reason you would continue to use it is you would enter like these DeFi pools, but like the DeFi pools there aren't even great. Like they're not great compared to the ones on say like Arbitrum or Optimism or even Ethereum. I mean, you might get like a few extra percentages on your LP or like whatever you're doing there. That there might be some shit coins you want to farm up there, but like the risk reward is definitely not there. Like on Ethereum, if you have USDT on Ethereum, like you know your USDT is guaranteed like 100%, because if USD, like the contract that ever gets exploited on Ethereum, Tether will immediately blacklist the address. So
Wow.
it like it didn't make any sense to me that people thought everything was fine and continued using the protocol like basically nothing had happened.
Yeah, it's I did hear a rumor about the multi-chain. I don't know if this guy was messing around or someone, but so I'm not gonna name, said multi-chain 100% state sponsored since day one. All commits was done by a single person with an airbrushed photo of a dude holding a fan in front of a pagoda. I looked it up. It's like a Chinese
Yeah,
looking
I
building.
know it's like what it is. Yeah.
The one account produced the code of 5 people. So I guess we'll have the listeners go and
It's
have a look see on
I
GitHub.
mean, I feel like there's
Andre.
a very, very good chance it's a Chinese government honeypot or something. I mean,
Yeah.
there's something seriously wrong going on there. It's like blatantly obvious to me, but I
And
really
it's-
don't know what it is.
And I gotta say, if it's a honeypot, I love it because it's just like, how do we just take everybody's coins? It's like, how do we do that? No, but there's so many chains. How do you take everybody's coins on every chain? It's like, boom, multi-chain bridge. So just like, it's like
we got them, boys. We got them.
Yeah, it's like, so what assets do you support? It's like all of them. It doesn't matter. Just send me literally all of your money on every chain. It's cool. So that's
and like when a month ago when the initial bridge went down, they made a tweet saying that like this is going to affect the performance of like the following chains, and it's like a bunch of chains I'd never heard of. It was like I think one was Keck chain, or one was like Pepe chain, stuff like that.
You don't have any Keck, what is it, .keck domains, JMO?
I don't own any .keck domains, but
oh, you don't have any Keck domains.
Yeah,
that's if you're late on that, somebody's going to take your Keck domain before you.
The Chinese government might own all your Keck domains right now as well.
So, I mean, you mentioned
they're
before,
kicking away right now at you.
You mentioned before about all this. What are we going to do about these bridges? And I mean, I think somebody like our dear friend Brian at Layer 0, I think they should just come out with a bridging standard where it's not a private key and a USB stick in the car of some dude in Beijing, Shenzhen maybe.
Yeah.
But they're just something like Thor, but without, or what's it called, Thor chain.
Yeah,
but
Thor
that doesn't
chain.
get hacked. That doesn't get hacked every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have a shit coin that no one cares about.
Yeah.
So you just need like someone just needs to say, we're going to release this open source toolkit. Anybody can use it to make a bridge. And it's the messaging between the chains is done by Layer 0. So we guarantee all of those primitives, right?
Yeah.
And then for the rest of it, for like what is moved and what is not, it's basically an oracle that people are running that checks if the money was sent to the multisig on the source chain.
Yeah.
And there's voting in batches, whatever, right? And it's credited on the other one.
Yeah.
And this, I'm not going to say it's not rocket science, because there's a lot of moving parts there, and thinking about reorgs, and the other chain becomes unstable. This happens a lot. Which Paul Storz of Drive Chain can tell you everything about. But I think we would make a lot of progress if at least somebody started building on their primitives and making some open source stuff, because this is horrible. Like, it's been years now of this.
Yeah, I feel like there needs to be some industry standard for like how bridges work outside of just a random person holding your keys and issuing your token on another chain. I mean, that model obviously doesn't work. I mean, even the bridges that work like that haven't been exploited, like eventually there's going to be some issue down the line where like a boating accident, you're hiking in India, you lose like $5 billion worth of assets that fall out of your pocket or some shit. And it's no way. Like, if you look at like the biggest hacks, they're all bridges. And in order to have an ecosystem in the future where it's multi-chain, where people are like using different chains for different purposes, but then you can have like assets on one chain, like a collateral on another chain. If you want to use a certain chain for like a certain purpose, you have the ease of access to move assets there without risking losing all your money. Like until that happens, like the whole decentralized finance, like cryptocurrency ecosystem, and like these layer ones and layer twos is kind of dead, because eventually enough hacks are going to happen where it's just going to be discouraging. Like if you're like a new crypto user, if you're in your first like crypto cycle and you do well, or you invest in like some good stuff, and then you lose it all because of the kind of stupid bridge hack, then you're not going to return for your second cycle. You're not going to continue participating in the ecosystem. So it's definitely a problem.
Yeah, I can imagine there were a lot of Solana users who were sitting on USDT, wrap Bitcoin, all this stuff.
The Sol wrap Bitcoin was like pretty bad. Yeah,
and it's like, and it just literally doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah. Do we have any more cheerful news? Did anything good happen in this past couple of weeks?
I think literally nothing good happened apart from the pump, the ETF pump. That was very short-lived, wasn't it? Was it an ETF pump? I don't know. It was.
I feel like crypto news cycles are just always like 90% depressing, but then you hang on to the 10% upside. You're like super excited about it, but there's always, even in like a bull market where like numbers are going up like crazy, like the news cycle is mostly like depressing, like hacks or exploits or something going wrong.
Yeah, but then again, we get the bull market part of the cycle where the memes are funny, everybody's happy, startups are doing well, everyone's getting funded, everyone's a genius. Like literally anybody who can draw lines on a chart looked like they should win some prize. So I think the years and years of suffering is still worth it, because we get a few months of pleasure every here and there.
I agree.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
What do you guys think? I remember in the previous cycle there was and a bit before that, there are a few people saying that time was compressing in crypto over time, so that we got shorter but more aggressive bear markets, and then longer and longer. Shorter and more compressed bull markets, and then longer and worse bear markets. What do you think about that theory?
It doesn't feel like the bear markets are that long. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. Would you say we're in a bull or bear market right now?
If you look at my account on Aave, we're in a bull market. If you look at the news and just the complete lack of users in crypto, then we're in a bear market.
But
I'm bullish. I turned bullish like months ago.
Yeah, what price did BTC bottom out at this time? Was it like
16K, somewhere around there?
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
we're like
still looks pretty bearish, but
we're like almost 100% off the lows. Yeah. Ethereum's like 100% off the lows.
Yeah. No, I've been bullish for months. I'm cool with this. I think
I feel like we're in a bit of like an awkward spot now, where like people want to be bullish, but then there's all this like regulatory stuff, and no one really knows what's going on, and like it honestly might be, you know, like you remember the old China bans Bitcoin for like the 6th time, and like the coins go down 10%. The SEC might be the new like China bans Bitcoin. Like the SEC goes after Coinbase, SEC goes after Kraken, SEC goes after Binance, you know, like all this stuff, like filling the news cycle. Coins go down 5% in one day, and then they like slowly recover, stuff like that. So
this is a bit of a reverse, because now it's sort of like the US banning China, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm not going to stretch that metaphor for multi-chain. That's just like China doing China. That's just China doing Chinese stuff.
I'm actually super curious how this whole multi-chain thing plays out. Like, I think eventually we'll get clarity as to what exactly happened, and if it's just like a Chinese Fed operation that did well. But I have my suspicions. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
How much in total are we talking if of all assets held by the bridge?
On the multi-chain bridge?
Yeah.
I think they have like somewhere around like 1 to 1.5 billion, and then the hack was for I want to say like 150 million in assets that are moved, but like I think the remaining assets are frozen right now, meaning like the bridge doesn't work, and like if you're an LP provider, you just have assets stuck on the bridge. So that's also unclear.
Yeah, what the you said we're in a bit of an awkward spot. What do you think is going to take? Because there's, when people use that phrase regulatory clarity, I'm not sure we want that. Because it's one of those things you might be asking for before you see what it looks like. Like in China, they got very clear regulation, which was stop running a business or we'll put you in prison.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. Maybe like the whole spot ETF. If that actually comes out. So like the biggest problem I see with like the current regulation and like the ETF side of things is that they don't approve a spot ETF, but instead they approve something like the GBTC product, right? Which is like complete bullshit product. It's just like a giant scam, right? You can deposit Bitcoin, but you can't redeem Bitcoin. And then like in order to cash out, you need to sell your shares, and like the shares perpetually trade at a discount, and that they don't even like really track the Bitcoin price. And this has been like, I think the Winklevoss twins proposed the spot Bitcoin ETF in like 2000, I would say like 2011, 2012. And
yeah, they had
like,
a 10-year anniversary, I believe.
Yeah, that would have been easily the best performing ETF in the U.S. market by like a large margin past 10 years if that was just available. But instead we got like all these like bullshit all these bullshit products like GBTC. We have all these like mining companies that are like buying out specific companies, rebranding them as mining companies, mining a few Bitcoin, like listing on New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. And then if people want Bitcoin exposure, but they don't know how to buy Bitcoin, they're buying these stocks, they're buying these, like these GBTC products. And as Bitcoin goes up, they lose money somehow. And like and at the end of the day, they're trying to figure out what happened to all their money when like Bitcoin's like going through the roof.
Yeah, I think something that could save us, and I think Bitcoiners have been thinking about this for some time. We just need powerful people to be bag holders. This is very simple math. You're not gonna walk up to Washington D.C. And explain to people how great the blockchain is or how DeFi is going to save all of us. Literally nothing works like that.
Yeah.
What you have to do is you need to get like BlackRock or whatever to understand. Maybe they can make for them a tiny bit, but it doesn't matter because they have 1,000 departments. If they make another department and that also makes money, fantastic. Mm-hmm. So we just need to make these people want the price to go up, and then all the regulation will just magically be solved.
I think the bull case now is that we're already at that point, and like BlackRock and the other similar organizations have been filling their bags for quite some time without telling people, right?
Yeah, I would hope so.
Which may be true, which may not be true, but I think that's like a definite bull case going on right now.
I agree, and whenever I get depressed about the crypto market, I think about this book I was reading. Talks a bit about market timing, and yeah, I mean, in my opinion, buying Bitcoin now at like 20K was extremely low risk. Yes, it could have gone to 10. Of course, it could have gone to 10 or 5, but very, very, very unlikely. But buying Bitcoin when it was like 68,000, that was super high risk because Mark Zuckerberg's sister had ads running about crypto. That
Yeah.
is super high risk. So I would say the territory we are now is also, in my opinion, is very low risk, and that's how I'm treating it.
Yeah,
But
I'm
yeah, of
pretty
course, it can
bullish
go
on
to
Bitcoin.
shit.
I'm
Yeah,
pretty bullish on Bitcoin. I'm pretty bullish on Ethereum.
yeah.
I'm pretty bullish on like I wouldn't say like other layer one tokens, but like I'm
Mhm.
pretty bullish on. See, the problem with like other layer one tokens is like that they're not really fairly distributed, so they come with like a lot of baggage. Like you have like these VC vesting lockups, and then you have like more and more hitting the market. But I'm pretty bullish on them, like, you know, actually developing stuff, developing ecosystem, bringing new users in, and that in theory should translate to like a higher token price. But it's difficult to say. Like you compare that with like the inflation, and then like the VC entry, probably like for example, like Solana,
Yeah.
you still have like VC lockups for Solana that they got in at sub $1,
Mhm.
and there's just going to be like perpetual sell pressure for the next like 5 to 10 years. So it's like, even if like Solana ecosystem stuff takes off, it's difficult to be like super bullish on the token, just knowing that you have like these bag holders that are like these big VCs funds don't really give a fuck about what's actually being developed on Solana, that
Mhm.
they're just looking for an exit for their bags, right? So it's hard to say.
Yeah, I guess that's we talked about this before, but like what kind of investors you want and how to incentivize people. And you were very clear that in DeFi, you don't want to incentivize people to be passive bag holders. You want to make people be users or contribute somehow, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But these people are just passive money for 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, especially the big crypto VC funds that are like investing. The value proposition, I feel, is like they put their name on the project, so like the project gets some credibility if you have like the top funds investing in it. But it does come with a lot of baggage. I mean, like you obviously, if you sell your native tokens at a discount, you have to put some vesting on it, which like helps a little bit. But those vesting cliffs will eventually come, and then the positions will be sold if they aren't like sold already, you know, in OTC deals and stuff like that. So it's I feel like it's pretty difficult to get like long-term accurate price discovery based on, you know, like the actual fundamentals of your project in your token if you have baggage like that.
Yeah. Is there anything else on your mind? I mean, you already said you're bullish on Bitcoin and Ether, so that's going to be like the soundbite we're going to use.
Anything else on my mind? Yeah, I feel like we're definitely in an interesting spot in crypto. I think I mentioned it a few times before, but I think something really has to be done, like to make it easier for new users of crypto to know where to go. Well, like for example, if someone that I know that's not in crypto came to me today and was like, I want to get in crypto, what exchanges should I use, like what wallet should I use, like a lot of like the suggestions I would have had for them, let's say like 6, 9, 12 months ago, have been exploited, have had issues, have all this FUD around them. So like it's difficult for me to say like, no, it's all too risky, you know, don't deal with any of this. But in reality, it is sort of like, if one of my friends asked me today if they should deposit like a lot of money on Binance to trade, I'd say it's probably fine. Like your money's probably safe, but I really wouldn't recommend doing it. I mean, like unless it's, you know, you actually feel the necessity. So I think this goes for like centralized exchanges, decentralized exchanges, like stuff like bridging, like everything that crypto encompasses. I feel like there needs to be some sort of industry standards set for where like newcomers can come in and know that like their assets are safe here. Like we use this wallet, we use this bridge, we use this exchange. We can use this counterparty for custody, and like everything will be fine no matter what.
Yeah.
Which I feel like we don't have right now.
Yeah, we it felt like we had such a good direction with FTX. It was like such a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
Good banking, everything was fast, like good tech, CEO is funny.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, it's a shame.
With the FTX payment system as well, could use it as a bank account. Basically, everyone did.
Yeah.
So I guess what we can hope for is I mean, we need to have on and off ramps. So I think we should hope for someone to make an FTX very similar.
I mean,
other things.
FTX 2.0 coming out soon, apparently.
I was gonna yeah. So I would like something like that, but just like don't fuck off with the money, you know?
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
What do you think about FTX 2.0? What's this 80% number I hear?
I don't know. I mean, like I read through some of it. To me, it sounds like they're just trying to like rake up some fees. I mean, they've been hinting at relaunching it. That they probably spend like a couple hours a day talking about it in a boardroom, getting paid like $5,000 an hour per person or something ridiculous. Like I don't really put any weight into it. It's another thing that like comes a bit with like too much baggage. Like how are they really going to launch? Like the only thing, the only infrastructure they have that they can launch with is like the matching engine in the back end. Like the whole custody side of things is non-existent. Like you look at the FTX documents that they're storing private keys on Amazon servers, right? And then you expect like the new team to come in who's like a bunch of boomers on the regulatory side, figure out how to handle user deposits, have a custody solution, like figure out how these markets work. So I just don't see it happening, but I don't know, who knows?
You're basically saying without Sam, you're not going to make an account.
Yeah, I mean, like even with
Sam comes back,
it didn't work out. So without Sam, it sounds like they're pretty screwed.
Yeah,
and also like the selling point, like, or are they going to just rebrand it to some other name, or are they going to use the FTX name and then like will people really use the FTX 2.0? I don't know.
It's like the OpenX thing, though, right? It's so hard for people to get past. I don't think anyone would ever be able to really get past it. I think it'd be it's very, very difficult.
Dude, you start using Fireblocks for custody. I'll have an FTX2 account open tomorrow. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, if Fireblocks wants to partner with them and handle their custody, that's one solution. But
okay, maybe
I don't think John Ray or whatever his name is knows what Fireblocks even is. So I feel like that's a pretty big hurdle for them.
Where's Sam Trabucco these days? Does anyone know where he is?
He's on a boat somewhere, right?
Last
I heard, he was on a boat.
Mm.
Also the Binance resignation posts by like all the Binance execs were like eerily similar to Sam's resignation, but before everything went down, right?
I mean, four or five tweets.
Yeah, and then it's like, life goes on. I'm on to different things or whatever.
Sam Trabucco, and what's the name? What's the other guy that ran away?
Harrison, right? The Brett Harrison, yeah.
I've noticed that when he posts on Twitter, people stopped replying with "go to jail." So I think that's good for him.
All right, I guess that's all we have for today, right?
That is everything. Thank you.
Maybe we'll start doing these news updates, especially if the news cycle is as exciting as it is these days. We can do them like once every 2 weeks or so and discuss the current events in crypto. Dude, these are pretty fun, actually.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I get to stay updated.